we can probably get started. So welcome everybody to our first Plant Health Club of 2022. For those of you who are new to Plant Health Club, this is a regular series of online meetings, typically monthly, where we come together as people with an interest in plant health to discuss issues in plant health and to provide professional development opportunities, particularly for those of you who are relatively early in your career as people working in plant health. So we're delighted to have you all with us today, and we hope you'll be coming back to join us for future sessions that are coming up later through the year. But particularly delighted this year, for this session, to welcome our speaker, Nicholas Spence. I'm going to pass over to my co-chair, Tony Isidea, to welcome you all to today's session. Tony.
Welcome everyone to this presentation. Please ensure your microphone is on mute during the presentation. Just to let you know that this introduction and presentation are being recorded, but any question and discussion thereafter will not be. After the presentation, we will have question and answer session and general discussion. Please, at that point, please feel free to unmute yourself. Our guest speaker, Professor Nicholas Spence, is DEFRA's Chief Plant Health Officer and is the head of the National Plant Protection Organization for the United Kingdom. She's an expert in plant health and international trade, and she was previously the head of the plant health and the chief scientist at the Food and Environmental Research Agency. Nicola is an experienced research scientist and has worked on various diseases of horticultural crops in the UK and internationally. She's a visiting professor at Adam University and a member of court at the University of York, and also a trustee at of a Yorkshire Arboretum. Nicola has a BSc in botany from the University of Durham, an MSc in microbiology from Birkbeck College at the University of London, and a PhD in plant virology from the University of Birmingham. Our role as Chief Plant Health Officer, among others, involves advising ministers and industry and other about the risk posed by plant pests and diseases, and ensuring that measures are in place to manage this risk and minimize their impact. So that's Professor Nicholas Spence for you. You have the floor, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Tony and Gail, for the introduction. And it's great to see so many people joining Plant Health Club today. So I've got a few slides, so I will now share my screen. Can everyone see that full screen? Yeah, great. Okay, so as Tony was saying, I'm the Chief Plant Health Officer at DEFRA, and until recently I was the BSPP President as well. So it's lovely to be joining my colleagues at BSPP again today. So first of all, we must think about what is the value that is at risk from plant pests and diseases. And for the UK, we've attempted to monetize the value of healthy crops and forestry, the gross value added from crops and horticulture, forestry, etc., and also the social and environmental value of forestry and trees. So we're able to estimate around about 9 billion a year for that, plus the value of food and drink exports and recreation. So you can see that these numbers are huge, and it's important that we can monetize the value at risk so that we can make the case for protecting them. And we estimate that the asset value of our trees and forests is about 175 billion. So these are huge numbers. So that is why it's a really important priority for government and for other stakeholders to protect plants and trees. And they are under threat. So globalization and climate change have seen an acceleration in the number of pest and disease outbreaks. This graph just shows tree pest and disease outbreaks in the last 60 years. And you can see that in the last sort of 16 years, we've had a real increase in the number of pests and diseases in our trees, even as recently as last October, when we found Phytophthora pluvialis for the first time in the UK. So this is driven, as I said, by trade and also climate change. We import around about £15 billion a year in plants and plant products, and particularly, things like mature trees, which present a high risk because they're very difficult to inspect, and often they've got, complex pests and diseases associated with them. And if there is an outbreak of a pest or a disease, it becomes really expensive to eradicate. And in some cases, it's impossible to eradicate. One example of a pest that we did eradicate is the Asian longhorn beetle, which was found in Kent in 2012. And over 5 years, at a cost of around £2 million, we did manage to eradicate this pest. We had to fell around 2,000 trees and monitor it for several years before we could declare it eradicated. And then two diseases that currently have become established in the UK, ash dieback and Phytophthora ramorum, are very costly, and it's been estimated that ash dieback will cost around 15 billion over the next 100 years. Particularly felling costs are high associated with this. And then, of course, there's all the loss in ecosystem services and environmental benefits. So it's always better to try and keep a pest and disease out than to try and deal with it once it's arrived. And that's really the basis of the plant health regime that we have here in the UK. And indeed, every country in the world will have a similar regime. And we sit under the World Trade Organization and the International Plant Protection Convention, where standards are set. And the SPS, the Sanitary and Phytosanitary Agreement of the WTO, really sets out our obligations under trade agreements. So within the UK, we have the UK Plant Health Service. It comprises DEFRA, and we are the lead national plant protection organisation. But plant health is devolved in the UK. That means that the governments in Scotland, Wales, and the Northern Ireland Assembly have responsibility for plant health policy. But we are coordinated at a UK level. So we work closely with our devolved colleagues to make sure that we agree and set policy, and we have a framework agreement that helps support that. We've also got a number of organisations that help with surveillance, inspection, controls and diagnostics, as well as research. So in England and Wales, we have the Animal and Plant Health Agency, APHA, FERA provides science services, and we have Forestry Commission. And then in Scotland, SASA and the Scottish Forestry Agency, and Wales have Natural Resource Wales, and Ireland have AFBI and the Forest Service. So quite a number of organisations involved, as well as working with lots of universities, NGOs, and other institutes. Many of you may be part of that network of plant health research and support. And really what we're aiming to do is to protect across the whole of the biosecurity continuum. And what we mean by that is providing protections pre-border in countries of origin so that pests are managed better in the countries where they originate. We have activity at the border to stop entry of pests and diseases. And then we have work going on in country to reduce the spread or to manage the threat, etc. So we've got activities going on across that whole biosecurity continuum. And in many cases, we're working closely with other countries to help support them in making sure that they aren't exporting pests and diseases, because obviously that has an impact on their own trade. So typically some of the things that we're involved with start with risk and horizon scanning, and we've got a very good tool for horizon scanning where we look at the greatest threats from all over the world, and then we provide a decision framework so that we can prioritize action. So this all starts with horizon scanning, looking at literature, whether it's published or in the grey literature, looking at trade journals, intelligence, scraping the internet for any report of a pest or a disease and a keyword that we're interested in. So we gather all this data together, and then we also look at what information is there about the distribution of a pest, what hosts does it affect, and often, we do see reports, and particularly things like the Cabby Plantwise scheme, where they're working directly with thousands of farmers in many parts of the world where there perhaps aren't such strong plant health services. That is often a source of information about what's new and emerging. So we look at all of this, and then we have an expert group, which is the UK Plant Health Risk Group, that looks at these and attempts to rate the likelihood, impact and value of the sector without mitigation, and then looks at what mitigations could take place in order to reduce the overall risk. So the maximum value of each of those is 5, and so the maximum that any pest can achieve on the risk register is 125. So 5 times 5 times 5. And you'll see that we also have a colour rating. So the most severe risks are in the kind of red category, more than 60. And then we go down through sort of amber, green and blue towards much lower risks. So by doing this, we can really understand, where most of our risks lie and what we can do to reduce the risk. An example is potato ring rot. So you can see that the unmitigated risk is 125. So that is, the highest risk that it can be. But when you take various actions, regulation, awareness raising, you can reduce the risk right down. So that actually really helps us manage the risk in the system. And then the UK Plant Health Risk Group meets on a monthly basis. We work with our colleagues across the devolved administrations and with APHA and Forestry Commission. And then we'll typically look at, between 5 and 10 risks every month. We have coordination meetings with the Crown dependencies. That means Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man. And then recommendations made to me are escalated to our ministers. And then decisions are made about what we're going to do, whether we're going to regulate, whether we're going to do more surveillance, etc. So that's going on in a very dynamic way all throughout the year. And we have a monthly meeting with our ministers where we discuss these threats and we get decisions about what we're going to do. So what are we doing at the border? Well, we have a new border operating model. Since we left the EU, we have a bespoke import control regime, which we've been phasing in over the last year or so. So we do take do physical inspections at our airports. We've always done that. At the seaports, we do physical inspections of some products, particularly timber, but we've also got a lot of inspections at point of destination. As we develop our border control posts and bring them online later this year, we'll be moving a lot more of our border inspections to those border points. But sometimes it's actually better to inspect during a growing season or for a dormant tree when it's actually got leaves on. So we follow that up visiting plant nurseries over the year and do post-import inspections. We also do a lot of surveillance in the wider environment. For example, we fly helicopters over our tree canopies all over the UK so that we can look for any stress in the tree canopy, any signs of disease, and then we can follow that up on the ground by sending inspectors to go and have a look. So a whole range of different activities to protect at the border. We also have an increasing threat from postal and direct sales. So we do monitor postal and direct sales. We do monitor the internet. We monitor parcel depots such as this one. And here's an example of a consignment that we found last year. And there were 1,200 bare-rooted fruit trees in individual boxes destined for private individuals. So people had ordered these on the internet and they were expecting them to be delivered directly to their homes. And we believe that the origin was actually Bulgarian material, even though they came from France. None of these had phytosanitary certificates. None of them had any kind of evidence of phytosanitary controls. So that is very much not allowed. So they were all re-exported, and obviously lots of disappointed customers. But the company that were arranging this, were not complying with our plant health controls. And this is the typical high-risk material, fruit trees, plants for planting, where there could be pests and diseases that then get into the wider environment and people's gardens. We also have outbreaks to deal with, and in the event of an outbreak, I'm the incident commander, so I take charge, convening rapid responses. So currently we've got 2 incidents: Ips typographus, which is a spruce bark beetle that's been found in the southeast of England. The problem with this is it can fly across the channel, so it's not even linked to trade. It's likely linked to climate change and the fact that this pest is widespread in other parts of Europe. It can fly across the channel and it's searching for stressed spruce trees, particularly wind-blown or stressed trees. And we've had about 13 outbreaks in the last year. We're eradicating all of them, but we've got this continual pressure on the spruce in this area. So actually the other thing we're doing is we're working with landowners and offering incentives for them to fell that spruce and replant with something more suitable, because the value at risk actually is the rest of the UK, and particularly spruce plantations in Scotland and the southwest and in Wales that we really want to protect. So it simply becomes difficult to grow those kind of trees in parts of the country which are going to be constantly under pressure. We're doing lots of research to look at the origin of the pest so that we can be clear, that the intervention we're taking is appropriate. And then I mentioned we found Phytophthora pluvialis back in October down in Cornwall. So we're undertaking lots of surveillance at the moment. We've now got several findings in the southwest, but also in Wales and Scotland down the west coast. And any of you that work on Phytophthora know that's the typical range, the west of the UK, which is warmer, it's wetter. It's just the typical kind of place that this can establish. We're doing a lot of work on the sequencing of the isolates, working with New Zealand and Oregon in the USA, where this disease has previously been found, to try and understand, how it got here, why it's spreading, and ultimately what we're going to do about it. So that's very much an ongoing incident. And then there are several other diseases that we have to learn to live with, like ash dieback. And our approach there is to work with organizations like Kew, the Future Trees Trust, and Forest Research to come up with an archive of tolerant ash trees that have been tested that will become the basis of a future breeding program. We're investing in a lot of other research, particularly bacterial plant diseases, and we had a joint call with BBSRC. And last year, we also released a biological control agent for the control of the oriental chestnut gall wasp, which has been, again, found in the southeast of the country. So we're monitoring the performance of this little wasp, Ptoramus sinensis, to see whether or not it's been successful in managing that pest. And of course, there are lots of threats that we don't have that we absolutely want to keep out. Here's 3 examples: Xylella fastidiosa, emerald ash borer, and plain wilt, or canker stain of plain, as it's also called. So these are 3 of our highest risks, and we have stronger national measures using regulation and legislation to try and keep these pests out. You know, managing imported trees and also plants. In the case of Xylella, it's got a very high wide host range, and things like firewood in the case of emerald ash borer. And actually plain wilt can be spread on contaminated pruning and planting tools. So we've been working with the arboricultural sector to make sure that they're fully aware of that and the risks that they take if they're moving around, particularly in Europe. So lots of work going on to reduce the risk of those being introduced. And then in the case of Xylella, it is quite widespread in parts of Europe now, particularly in the Puglia region of Italy, where it's had a devastating effect on olive trees. All the Balearic Islands and Corsica have problems with Xylella, and down in the Alicante region of Italy, of Spain, sorry, it's more of an issue on almond down there, but a number of outbreaks, and we have evidence that this disease is still moving in trade. So one that we're keeping a close eye on, and we're delighted that there's been really significant investment in research on Xylella, particularly the Bridget project, which is co-funded with the BBSRC. We've produced fact sheets, updated our contingency plan, updated our regulations, etc. So very much we're throwing everything at this pest to stop it coming. And then also investing in science and education. Clearly, we need science, we need evidence, we need all of you to be helping us in our fight against pests and diseases. So we've been doing work with the Royal Society of Biology and Gatsby to look at the curriculum in schools to make sure that there is an awareness there. We worked with Harper Adams to introduce a master's degree in plant pathology, and DEFRA, RSB and BSPP all invest in the undergraduate support, something called FUGS. It's the Plant Health Undergraduate Scheme. That's actually open at the moment for projects. So do have a look at that. It's on the BSPP website. You can bid for funding for a project, and then we announce that and get students to apply for it. There's a lot of work also going on treescapes and the Action Oak partnership, where we're generating funding for research on oak. So look out also for the launch of the Centre for Forest Protection a bit later on this month. So that is new funding for Kew Forest Research to work with lots of other partners in the UK and internationally on forestry pests and diseases. And looking to the future, we've recently consulted on a new strategy for plant biosecurity in Great Britain. So we'll be announcing the outcome of that probably between March and May, sometime around then, as to what our future strategy will look like. We continue to work with citizen science projects such as Observatory, so that we've got the public very much engaged in the search for pests and diseases, and they can report those through an online tool called Tree Alert. So, you know, really important that we engage with the public because they are our eyes on the ground all over the country. And then finally, all this information is available on the UK Plant Health Information Portal. You can access the risk register there, you can search, you can download things, you can find out about the latest information. And also I'm on Twitter, so do give me a follow. So that is it for slides. I'll stop screen sharing now.